I have been going uphill for I don't even know how long, and it's like a steep one. I don't even know if you can tell, but if you can see, there's a bunch of mountains behind me, and I'm basically going up one of those. But as I always try to remind myself, if I'm going uphill, that means eventually I get to go downhill. This is more than what I had in mind. Hey friends, Sheila here. I am so excited to talk to you today about what I think is the most beautiful and challenging ride in all of Scotland. Now granted, I have not yet ridden on all the roads in all of Scotland, though I'm working on it. I have now spent over 4 weeks cycling around Scotland, and I love this ride so much that I am willing to go on record right now and say that I think it is the most beautiful and challenging ride in all of Scotland. And that is the ride from Kinlochewe to Bealach. So technically this ride starts just outside Kinlochewe, more in like Applecross, going through Kinlochewe, then to Torridon, then to Applecross. There's 2 routes. I took the coastal route all the way up to Bealach and then descending down to Torridon. Disclaimer, I try so hard to pronounce things properly here, but if you are from Scotland and I'm pronouncing things terribly, I'm really sorry. I'm trying. The way I did it, I started in Inverness. I went Inverness to Kinlochewe, and then Kinlochewe to Applecross, and then Applecross to Torridon. So kind of like 3 days. This ride gets my vote for most beautiful and challenging because beauty-wise, it's just mountains and lakes and gorgeous views everywhere. Challenging-wise, it has a lot of hills, and Bealach is the steepest climb in all of the UK. It has gradients of 20%. 20%! I mean, I don't know if this is 20%. Going up a road that steep is real steep, but totally worth it. Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's rewind. I still think to this moment that ride into Kinlochewe was the most beautiful. From Applecross, you're kind of doing this gradual uphill. Because I was coming from Inverness, it was the end of the day, and so I was just kind of like slowly trudging my way uphill. A lot of cycle touring, I find I spend just like looking and mesmerized at everything, but then there are also those times where you're just kind of like head down, just like trying to crank out those miles. And so I'm like head down, going up this hill, and I get to the top of the hill and I look up and my heart might have stopped, I might have stopped breathing, my jaw might have hit the floor. Honestly, it was one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. It was just green mountains on either side and this road just like cutting through them. And so I was just riding down this road and it just felt like I was cutting through mountains like a knife through butter. Just like smooth sailing, mountains on either side. It was around 7 o'clock at night, so it was that perfect sun is just starting to set, golden light in the distance. And then halfway down, this lake appears at the bottom, so there's like sparkling water and mountains on either side, and you're cruising down. My eyes were watering from the wind, but if they were not, I would probably have been crying anyway, because it was just stunning. It's just stunning. And then in Kinlochewe, I stayed overnight at this little bunkhouse, which was great. In the morning, I had breakfast, I got on my bike, and I stepped outside of this bunkhouse, and it was just mountains everywhere, in every direction. And then from Kinlochewe, I hopped on my first stretch of single track road. And friends, I have a deep love for single track roads. So if you're not familiar with single track roads, they are a single track, a single lane, and then periodically they have these little pockets that jut out and it's like a passing place. If you come to a passing place, you pull over and somebody goes by, or if they come to a passing place, they pull over and you go by. So technically not the speediest mode of transportation, but I just feel like you're really working as a team with your fellow humans. So you're biking along and then somebody sees you and they pull over and you give them a wave and you're like, thanks, and they're like, no problem. And you're like, that was so nice of that person. And then the next time you come to a passing place and you pull over and somebody waves and it's like, thanks, and you're like, no problem, my pleasure. And so I just feel like you're constantly filled with these warm fuzzies. Just big ups for single track roads. So you're on these single track roads for a while, just kind of cutting through mountains. It's a little bit hilly, but nothing crazy. And then at Torridon, you hit Lake Torridon. So you're by the water, and then from there, you're kind of climbing up a whole lot of hills. However, whenever I'm going up a hill, I like to remember two things. One, if I'm going up a hill, that means at some point I get to go down the hill. And two, if you're going uphill in Scotland, chances are there's going to be a beautiful view at the end of it. So it's all gonna be worth it. To Applecross, you can take two routes. I took the coastal route. I will always take the coastal route. I just like biking along water. It can be windy sometimes, but it's also just so pretty. The first half towards Applecross is a lot of hills, but it also means you get these beautiful lookouts over water and mountains in the distance. And then after all the hills, it gets a little flatter and it's along the coast and it's green and there's sheep everywhere. Applecross is a really cute town just along the water. I stayed in a campsite basically just at the base of where the climb starts. Bealach is the third highest road, and it was designed with those kind of like really tight turns that you'll see in other mountain ranges. According to my bike computer, it was about a 5-mile climb from where I started. If you had a good bike and no gear, I'm sure you could do it pretty decently fast. I had 55 pounds of gear. We're working on downsizing. So I was lugging all of that up this 5 miles worth of climbing, and some of the climbs are 20% grades. 20% is a really steep hill. The whole way up, there are no descents, there are no flat parts, you're just climbing for 5 miles. But I would take little breaks along the way and look down, and it's super cool to see this like windy road that you've made it up. You're like physically climbing. There were some points towards the top where I had to walk my bike. It was just way too steep with the weight of the gear on the back of my bike. When I left Canada, I looked at all my stuff and I was like, yes, these are all necessary things, very minimal. But I tell you, halfway up that mountain, I was not opposed to just chucking it all off the mountain. I didn't because that would be wasteful and I need underwear, but you know, none of it really seemed necessary when I was physically carrying it all up a mountain. But I pushed really hard and I made it to the top. So if you are ever doing this, just remember you're gonna make it to the top. So stay positive, you'll get there. I think my favorite part of the climb was just the people. Like, so many people would give me a wave or like give me a salute or be like, good job, keep it up, you're almost there. Cyclists are of course really encouraging to each other, but the car drivers were really encouraging too. So that's really heartwarming. If you ever do it, you'll have a little cheer squad on your way up. I was really lucky that I was doing it on a clear day because I got to the top and I could just see all of the mountains in the distance. And it's just crazy. It's like something out of a painting. These different shades of mountains as they go further back. It's wild. I sat up there, had a snack. So from there, you have to go down the mountain. And I love going downhill, but this one was a little more than I bargained for. It's so steep and it has these really tight turns. I definitely had to take some little pauses along the way to kind of like stretch out my hands a little bit because I was being, you know, a little friendly with my brakes. But that is a really beautiful descent. Like, that's pretty special. You know, before I came to Scotland, I didn't have a whole lot planned. I really kind of made up my routes as I went. The Torridon Applecross was something that kept getting mentioned to me. So I was just like, okay, that's something I definitely have to do. But I really had no idea how beautiful that ride into Kinlochewe would be, how beautiful looking out from Bealach would be, and so many just little viewpoints along the way. So that is why, without a doubt, it gets my vote for most beautiful ride in Scotland. So far, I guess there's still lots of other places I still have to see. But if you were planning on cycling Scotland or even driving around Scotland, like, that is one thing that I would not want to miss because that's pretty special. If you have any questions about that ride or any other rides in Scotland, just let me know in the comments below. I'm happy to answer any questions if I can. If you like this video, please give it a like, really supports my channel. And if you want to be notified whenever I put out new videos, hit subscribe and the little bell below. Thanks. Have a good one.